everybody, Shashwat aka Mystic Monk. Welcome to the channel. So in the last video we talked about what an exposure is and what all parameters make that exposure possible. And in this video we'll be dealing with the first parameter, that is aperture. So what is an aperture? Aperture is basically an opening. It allows us to control the flow of light, and when we look at our lenses, well, not all the lenses, but if you have manual focusing lenses, you can easily toggle the aperture with the help of the aperture ring, and you can actually see how it works, right? So here I have a lens and you can see right through it, right? So in this lens I have this aperture ring. If I turn the aperture ring, we can see that something is closing and opening. I hope you can see this. So something is opening and closing. This iris kind of a thing, which is closing and opening, going narrow and going wide, is the aperture. By opening it all the way to its maximum width, or to closing it down to its narrowest width, we control the flow of light. By controlling the flow of light, we also control the depth of field. What is the depth of field, you might ask? Well, in basic terms, the depth of field for a lens, depending on its focal length, would be the area which would be in sharpest focus. Right? When we use a telephoto lens or a portraiture lens, and when we shoot wide open, we find that only a sliver of our subject is in focus and rest of the background goes out of focus. We call that a bokeh. That is something we love about portrait photography, right? The background going all milky, out of focus, creamy, and giving us a soft bokeh. Some people mistakenly call that background blur. That is not a blur. Please take this into account. That is the background going out of focus, not blur. This is blur. The background does not get blurred. What happens is the background goes out of focus. I'll just demonstrate. I'll go out of focus. So this is out of focus and back in focus. So do not get misunderstood, or do not use the wrong terminology. Never say that the background got blurred. No. So the flow of light and the amount of depth of field, that is what aperture controls. If you are a portrait photographer or a wedding photographer, you would like to use a wide open aperture. You would like to get a very shallow depth of field. You would like your subject to stand out from the background. You would like the background to just melt away and your subject be on face of it, sharp and in correct exposure. If you are a landscape photographer or a cityscape photographer, or even if you like doing streets, then you would like to have details in your image. You would like to show everything that is visible, from the very foreground to infinity. Otherwise there would be no point doing a landscape, right? If just one tree was in focus and everything else melted away. We don't like those kind of landscapes shots, do we? We need details. So in order to get details, we have to use a narrow aperture. So wide aperture for portraiture, narrow aperture for cityscapes, landscapes, getting details in your shots. Now there's another thing that I would like to clear about aperture and how our systems, our cameras or our lenses show us the markings of the aperture. If you can see here, I hope it focuses. Yes. If we can see here and read, this lens has the widest opening of 1.6. So this lens is marked 1.6 to 16. Okay, I hope it focuses. So 1.6 to 16. Now 16 is the lower aperture number, right? And 1.6 is the higher aperture number. Even though 16 is a bigger digit and 1.6 is a lower digit, you have to take into account the fact that all aperture are actually marked 1 by 1.6, 1 by 2, 1 by 2.8 and so on. So smaller the number, wider the aperture. Smaller the number as in the markings. It is not actually the smaller number. It is 1.2 is actually bigger than 1.4, right? 1.2 is half, 1.4 is quarter. So half is bigger than quarter. Understand this. So a bigger number denotes wider aperture. A lesser number denotes a narrower aperture. Please have this in mind, because this will help us in subsequent lessons. So that is all about aperture, what it does, how it helps us in getting different kinds of shots. We will see some samples of the shots, some shots with the widest aperture, and then again the aperture getting slowly and slowly and slowly narrower, and we'll see that the wide aperture have shallow depth of field, and as the aperture gets narrower, our depth of field keeps increasing. So I'll roll some samples here, and after we see the samples, we'll get back and talk something about the upcoming lesson. So roll the samples. So I hope looking at those pictures you got an idea as to what is what. In our next lesson or in our next video, we would be talking about shutter speed. What shutter speed is, how it affects our exposure, and what relationship it has with aperture. So wait for that video. This is Mystic Monk signing off, and before you leave, if you have liked this video, do press the like button, subscribe to the channel, ask your friends or those around you who are interested in technology, photography, arts to subscribe to this channel, because I'll be bringing out more and more contents. Mystic Monk signing off. Bye bye.